No matter how you try to escape it, destiny arrives all the same. And the destiny of today is cave diving brain rot because you can't help but look and YouTube can't help but show it to you. In today's video, we see so-called veteran divers refuse to delay a dive that has over 8 times reduced visibility from what they were expecting, and someone who unironically brought a small lamp and no other equipment to a cave which he then explored down to the smallest crevice. Many loving wives and children were harmed in the caving of this video. While their best decision was to stop and head back while I still had a chance, yours will be to stay here and witness the unparalleled hubris of man. Let's begin.
Two friends, Wang Yuan and Wang Tao, were highly experienced divers who wanted to enter Judan Cave in China to break their own personal depth. Someone had previously a guideline that extended for 525 feet, but they wanted to extend it by another 35 feet, aiming for a total depth of 558 feet.
Of course. Extremely important that 35 feet increased by 35 feet.
This plan would require them to leave the existing guideline for some time, and because those depths are already dangerous, doing so would have significantly increased the risk. However, they were not only diving experts in general, but also had already completed 15 dives in the cave's northern entrance, so they felt quite confident. They even decided to do a practice dive in open water to reach 500 feet. Unfortunately, Tao had to skip the practice dive due to illness. On April 18th, 2014, after...
Alright, so let's play a game. How many red flags are already present? Leaving the line is good, that's yes. One of the guys not practicing is also a great one. The practice dive is in open water. So I think it's those three so far.
When they started their descent, they noticed that visibility was greatly reduced because of the rainfall in the days prior. But they decided it was not bad enough to postpone the dive.
Oh, they get... yes. They're given the inclination, the premonition, the appropriate forewarning. Now, going down at this depth would be greatly dangerous because of the reduced visibility and lack of a guideline. Beginning the dive, they noticed visibility was greatly reduced immediately, and presenting an entirely different scenario from the practice dive, which one of them did not even attend. However... instead of going in 3 days when the water's conditions were better, they decided our life is not worth postponing this dive, and so they continued in the Judan Cave. Absolutely fantastic.
Under normal conditions, divers can usually see about 50 feet ahead, but on that day, visibility was only about 6.5 feet. As extra safety measures, they had...
Bro, how much is that? 8.5 times reduced visibility. But, you know, we got the backup tanks, so, like, it's all good.
Previously placed air tanks at various depths, each containing the appropriate gas mixture for that depth. Additionally, a friend named Pei stayed near the cave's surface to assist if needed.
Yes, Pei's going to be able to save
them on the guideline, while Tao's role was to place arrow markers along the line to indicate the direction back to the cave entrance. At such extreme depths, having the correct gas mixture is crucial because both nitrogen and oxygen can become problematic under high pressure. They followed all the guidelines carefully.
There's not a thing that's not problematic.
However, around 538 feet, Yuan suddenly felt as though he might lose consciousness. Realizing they needed to ascend to counter these symptoms, and considering they were only 13 feet beyond the established guideline, with visibility around half that distance, they turned back toward the line and the surface. Yuan led them to where the guideline should have been, but they were met with a terrifying situation. The guideline was gone. They searched desperately, hoping to feel or spot it, and eventually found it. But now, there was another problem. Their panic at losing the line had caused them to breathe faster, which consumed more gas than normal. By the time they rediscovered the line, Yuan's cylinder for that depth was nearly empty, so he had to switch back to his main tank, which contained surface air. This was far from ideal.
And so, see, look, you panic for like a minute. Now he's gonna die for that because the line was 13 feet, which, keep in mind, is only a fifth of what their visibility range should have been. But you know, no, it's not. We don't need to postpone the dive. Let's just
okay. Around the 393-foot mark, he began trembling involuntarily.
Inflate my lungs, pop me up like a balloon, and explode me inside of the water tunnels. Because I crave death. you know,
Desperately needed
just
to
make
reach
it happen.
their next.
Of
Yuan
course.
still had hope until he looked down and saw Tao stuck under a rock. Because of the low
Of course.
visibility, Tao had accidentally swam into
There
the
it
rock
is.
and gotten wedged there. Yuan also noticed
There
that
it is,
Tao wasn't
wedged
attempting
in.
to free himself, but was instead shining his light at his neck, signaling that he was running out of air. Yuan immediately gave Tao an emergency mouthpiece, and Tao
So
freed
you
himself.
get stuck on
They
a
resumed
rock and
their
now you
ascent with
die.
very little air left, sharing what remained. Suddenly, Yuan saw Tao float past him, rising upward and disappearing in the murky water. Yuan knew Tao must have lost consciousness
just
because
dead.
he made no attempt to hold on. Still tried to go deeper in search of Tao. At some point, he lost
Tao's
consciousness
cooked, bro.
briefly, and although he woke up moments later, it was the warning sign that he needed to get out immediately. He attempted to follow the necessary
You didn't realize
decompression stops on the
that.
way up, but in his panic
At some
and weakened
point
state,
before
he
that?
ascended faster than he should have, stopping for about 3 hours instead of the nearly 4 hours required. Upon surfacing, Yuan immediately told Pei what had happened. Shocked, Pei dove in to search for Tao, but soon realized Yuan might also be in serious. As soon as Yuan removed his regulator, he began vomiting and twitching, experiencing severe dizziness. They had no choice
Okay,
but
so
to
this
abandon
bro
the
almost
immediate search
died.
for Tao in order to get Yuan urgent medical help. By this time, Yuan was in agonizing pain, especially in his legs. Fortunately, rescuers arrived quickly. Tao had died, and the following day,
Yeah.
his lifeless body was found at a depth of 176 feet. Yuan spent several days in a decompression chamber, but ultimately made a full recovery.
Yeah,
Kalimba Cave Tragedy.
bro's not decompressing the loss of his friend though. He not decompressing any of that. Bro, they're just they're so determined to die. But it's just the sheer hubris that makes it happen. And see, they get stuck on rocks and have to emergency swap to the wrong tank, and they have to ascend quicker than they can, and they panic and they run out of breath. That's the whole thing, is that no amount of experience is ever going to prepare you. It's just not. It's not. If you're enjoying this video, leave a like, subscribe, and check out my Twitch for more.
Kalimba Cave Tragedy. It
Kalimba
was
Cave.
December 2004, and 9 divers were about to enter the Kalimba cenote for the second time while on vacation in Mexico. Their plan was to follow the
perfect way to spend a vacation, of course.
They split into 2 groups. The first would go ahead and set markers to highlight the correct path, while the second would follow. Since the first group had more efficient oxygen tanks, they planned to go farther before returning, while the second group would start heading back earlier. As Team 2 was
fun for the whole
expected to
family. All
resurface
9 of
first,
your
they would
extended
remove
family
a specific
members.
type of marker called cookie
Great for
to signal
grandma.
their exit. Team 1, noticing the absence of the cookies, began their ascent. But when they resurfaced, Team 2 was nowhere to be found. They searched the area for 30 minutes, but found no sign of them. Regrouping at the Kalimba cenote, they geared up to re-enter the tunnel and search for them. Bubbles appeared in the water, and 2 divers quickly resurfaced. They immediately began explaining what had happened underwater.
I'm surprised 6
Instead
people
of
are
following
alive
the
right
intended
now.
exit path, Team 2 had mistakenly turned left. The return trip should have been short, but they only
Bro,
realized
it's so easy to just do one wrong turn and you're cooked. It's just over for you.
Only realized their mistake after swimming 1,400 feet in the wrong direction. By the time they noticed, they were nearly 3,000 feet from the original exit. However, another exit was just 300 feet away. Reaching it posed a serious challenge. They needed to cross a 70-foot gap with no guidelines, making it a dangerous risk of getting lost. Kent, one of the divers, took out his safety line, secured it, and began swimming across. He was just short of reaching the guideline when his line stopped him. It was too short to cover the long gap. Time was running out, and turning back, Kent saw the rest of the group heading toward the initial path, so he swam fast to catch up.
No,
then,
they're all drowning,
oxygen
bro.
levels were critically low,
Yeah,
and with no air pockets in the cave, the situation
over.
was becoming life-threatening. After 25 minutes of swimming, they finally reached the correct line. A 30-minute swim still lay between them and the exit. Bill's oxygen was nearly gone, with only 200 psi left. He moved next to Jean, who had more air, and she shared hers.
So we got some single father. We've thrown some single fathers in the mix too. You know, we got some women that resent their children as well. It's not just the men. It's, you know, there's a broken home of every type for those related to the cavers.
Was so bad that in tight passages, Bill had to hold his breath while Jean squeezed through first. Then Michael also began running dangerously low on air. Seeing that Jean and Bill were already sharing and could not help him, he panicked. He was the least experienced of the group, and his tank was almost empty.
Of course, so he panicked, so he's gonna drown.
Kent reached him in time, handed him his emergency mouthpiece, and tried to calm him down. Meanwhile, Jean and Bill made it out with just 500 psi left in Jean's tank.
She did survive for her family.
Minutes, they would have drowned. They immediately informed the others that Michael and Kent were behind them.
Bro, that's plot armor.
Their lights had been
Estimate.
visible just before they exited. The remaining divers quickly re-entered the tunnel, hoping to find them in time. Just 250 feet inside, they spotted Michael and Kent's lights. But something was wrong. They weren't moving. As they got closer, the truth became clear.
dead.
Both had run out of oxygen and drowned just 5 minutes from the exit.
That's crazy.
It was-
I'm just, to be honest, the most surprising thing about that story to me is that 7 of them actually lived. It's a surprisingly low percentage of deaths. Usually a lot more bodies are claimed.
Black Cave in Arizona.
The Black
Having
Cave
explored the
tragedy
cave before,
incident.
he felt confident that this would be a relatively safe trip. He entered the cave
course.
alone, equipped only with an electric miner's lamp and no helmet. The
course.
first part of the cave was
I've been in this cave once, so surely the cave is going to be exactly the same, and I'm not going to do anything other than what I did the previous time. So let me make sure I have no type of support system whatsoever when I enter, because nothing bad has ever happened to a caver before.
he noticed a secret side passage that caught his attention. Drawn by
Bro, it's
curiosity,
always the
Thomas
si-
strayed from the main route he usually took and began
It's
exploring.
always some side passage. You notice every time it's some side passage. And half the time they go into it willingly. They don't always even get lost in the side passage. Sometimes they just choose to die to the side passage. It's like, if there's anything you can take away from these, besides not caving at all, is that you don't go into the side. You just don't go into the side passage.
Venturing deeper into the unfamiliar passage for some
Come on,
time,
bro.
Thomas decided it was time to turn back. But to his growing concern, he realized that an hour had passed and he was completely lost. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't retrace his steps to the familiar route. As
Wow,
panic began to
imagine.
set in, his situation worsened.
If only there was like some kind of equipment that could have prepared you for a more responsible trip into an unexplored area of the cave.
His lamp started to flicker and
thoughts
eventually went
and
out,
ideas.
leaving him in total darkness, miles underground. With no source of light, Thomas turned to his last resort, a box of matches.
Of
Striking
course,
one,
the
he managed to
matches.
create a faint glow that barely
Notorious
illuminated the rocks around him. It wasn't
long-term
much, but it
lasting
was
light
better
source.
than nothing. He continued forward, using one match after another, but the matches burned out quickly, and soon he ran out entirely. Starving, dehydrated, and utterly exhausted, he pressed on until he encountered the fissure, a narrow crack in the rock barely 4 feet deep. Believing this might be his only chance to reconnect with the familiar route or find a larger
There we
opening,
go.
he decided to enter it feet first. As he lowered himself
Bro,
into
it's
the
no
gap,
way.
his hips dropped below the narrowest point, and he suddenly realized his mistake. He was completely wedged. His hips were firmly stuck
Oh my
between the rock
gosh.
walls, rendering him immobile. Using
That-
every last
bro,
ounce
that's
of his
crazy.
strength, Thomas tried to lift himself back up, but it was no use. He was now trapped, alone,
Bro's
in the dark,
fully
with no one
wedged.
able to hear him. Days passed, and Thomas
He got
remained
no
in the same
phone.
position. Back home, his wife grew increasingly worried when he failed to return. She
Back at home. Back at home.
Travis, have you seen have you seen Dad?
No, Mom. I think he was like out at the bar or something.
He contacted the police, who began an extensive search of the caves in the area. Unfortunately, Thomas hadn't told anyone exactly which cave he planned to
course.
visit, leaving rescuers to search blind.
It's not, that couldn't be that couldn't possibly be relevant information which you may need to know. I'm glad only the most responsible people are going caving. Really reassures me
Rescuers
in this
eventually spotted his
highly
car parked
dangerous
near Black
activity
Cave. A
that
rescue
they're
team
doing.
entered the caves. They found some of Thomas's belongings, including his glasses and shirt, but they missed the secret side passage he had ventured into. Amazingly, Thomas was still alive at this point, though his condition was rapidly deteriorating. Days passed, and with no further progress, authorities unfortunately called off the search. Thomas was officially declared missing. Refusing to give up, his wife continued pleading with authorities to resume the search. She distributed flyers around the city and reached out to anyone who might have information. But
Bro.
unfortunately, she wouldn't have known about her husband
Imagine.
for a long time. It wasn't until December 1996, over a year and a half later, that 3 other cavers exploring Black Cave
Imagine.
stumbled upon Thomas's remains in the dark, narrow passage where he had become trapped. Zachaton Sinkhole Incident.
Bro, bro, cavers are a different breed. I swear, a question I'm gonna have to ask when I get with a prospective partner. One of my instant deal breakers is going to have to be that if you're a caver, I just cannot be with you because you are going to, at some point, kill yourself at the expense of everything that we are building together. You know, like, so it's not Like they think they for real think that they're like 3 millimeters tall, and they can just go through any crevice amount in the known universe. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to the Paint Explainer for providing this video. His highly effective visual format and narration style are inspirational to me, and he covers a variety of interesting topics. You will not regret checking out his channel. If you enjoyed, we will be coming out with all types of content in the coming weeks, and really being active with this channel, so be sure to stick around and check out my Twitch as well for the hype moments and aura